One application of the narrative policy framework is through the use of visual imagery with those with access to the public's eyes and ears. In other words, those who have access to the agora neurons. Here we consider how the United States State of the Union is delivered by the President of the United States. Despite the State of the Union being originally intended to have been a written document, it has evolved over the years into a fully blown media event watched by millions. This annual bully pulpit provides U.S. presidents the opportunity to not only actually report the state of the United States, but also a time to set the nation's public policy goals. We have seen this on television since Ronald Reagan, the master of the visual media, acknowledged the heroism of Lenny Skutnik and brought him to the public's eyes. Since this 1982 address, presidents have used the stories of everyday Americans to inspire, commend, and call for action. The State of the Union is a way to reinforce the grand narrative of American exceptionality, as the president reaffirms what President Abraham Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. At the meso level, the U.S. Capitol building is the context and emphasizes that the president comes to Congress, the representatives of all Americans, to inform them of the current state of the union based upon current contextual conditions. At the same time, thanks to our first past the post voting system, there are only two major parties that may be seen as alternately angels or devils, depending on your perspective. Here, the president strategically communicates their goals to the Congress and to the American public. Finally, at the homo neurons level, the micro level, rhetorical strategies are used by presidents to develop the trust of their followers, to transport them into a story concerning America and what it should do through its public policy. Every president has used these strategies, but we have seen this evolve over the years to what may be seen as a visual apotheosis as presented by President Donald Trump. But first, some history about the State of the Union. The State of the Union fulfills Article 2, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution that requires that the president periodically give to Congress information of the State of the Union and to recommend to their consideration such measures as he shall judge necessary and expedient. In 1913, Woodrow Wilson made the address in person to Congress. As we already discussed, in-person recognition started with President Ronald Reagan inviting Air Florida Flight 90 rescuer Lenny Skutnik to his 1982 State of the Union address. Since then, the tradition is that the President of the United States will invite important outsiders and acknowledge them for the cameras. Every member of Congress can bring one guest to the State of the Union address. The President may invite up to 24 guests with the First Lady in her box. The Speaker of the House may invite up to 24 guests. Seating for Congress on the main floor is by a first-in, first-served basis with no reservations. The Cabinet, Supreme Court justices, members of the diplomatic corps, and the military leaders constituting the Joint Chiefs of Staff have reserved seating. While many expected U.S. President Donald Trump to bring guests to the State of the Union address in 2019 and use them to make his points, the acknowledged guest list went well beyond what was typical. Trump's 15 guests nearly matched the previous all-time high of 16, seen at his 2018 State of the Union address. Indeed, it doubled down on peak Obama and peak Clinton bests of 8 guests. The stories told through acknowledged guests visually highlighted the human drama of government action and inaction. Trump's trio of World War II veterans served as both an introduction and summation to his address by visually highlighting the greatest generation's role as savior of the free world and, in summation, protector of the Jewish people. Trump's shout-out to ex-prisoners nodded towards bipartisan cooperation while asserting his role as benevolent redeemer. His story of the violent end to 2 octogenarians and the loss suffered by 3 generations of kin laid blame because our nation failed to control its very dangerous border. At the same time, These choices of who would be shown the spotlight can be seen under a bleaker light by revealing how Donald Trump and his administration viewed the ethnicity and gender of American heroes and victims. The heroes of Donald Trump's State of the Union were nearly all white males serving in the military or law enforcement. The sole exception was Elvin Hernandez, who, like Celestino Martinez in the 2018 State of the Union, represented Latino males defending the border from other Latinos.
We must never ignore the vile poison of anti-Semitism or those who spread its venomous creed. With one voice, we must confront this hatred anywhere and everywhere it occurs. Just months ago, 11 Jewish Americans were viciously murdered in an anti-Semitic attack on the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. SWAT officer Timothy Matson raced into the gunfire and was shot 7 times chasing down the killer, and he was very successful. Timothy has just had his 12th surgery, and he's going in for many more. But he made the trip to be here with us tonight. Officer Matson, please. Thank you. We are forever grateful. Thank you very much.
The victims in the stories told by Trump were overwhelmingly minority or female. The African Americans were drug criminals receiving clemency from Trump and his administration. The Jewish American guests were victims saved by the U.S. military and law enforcement and referred to in the same breath as threats to Israel from Iran. When a white male was shown as a victim, it was as a father to an enlisted serviceman who gave his life for his country. All female guests were presented as victims, either of an unbuilt border wall and an unfair criminal justice system or of childhood disease. In turn, their inability to control their circumstances was underscored by tears wrought through masterful rhetoric by Donald Trump.
Year after year, countless Americans are murdered by criminal, illegal aliens. I've gotten to know many wonderful angel moms and dads and families. No one should ever have to suffer the horrible heartache that they have had to endure. Here tonight is Deborah Bissell. Just 3 weeks ago, Deborah's parents, Gerald and Sharon, were burglarized and shot to death in their Reno, Nevada home by an illegal alien. They were in their 80s and are survived by 4 children, 11 grandchildren, and 20 great-grandchildren. Also here tonight are Gerald and Sharon's granddaughter, Heather, and great-granddaughter, Madison. To Deborah, Heather, Madison, please stand. Few can understand your pain. Thank you, and thank you for being here. Thank you very much. I will never forget, and I will fight for the memory of Gerald and Sharon, that it should never happen again. Not one more American life should be lost because our nation failed to control its very dangerous border.
The delay of President Donald Trump's 2019 State of the Union address by the historically long federal government shutdown only serves to underscore how the speech is no longer about national and governmental performance, but instead is a bully pulpit for policy intent. Not one mention was made of perhaps the most debilitating work stoppage in federal government history, and this the third longest State of the Union address ever. Instead, the focus was on telling stories with American citizens as visual narrative props.